and good morning, everyone. Good morning, church. Boy, do I miss us. And I'm a little bit all over the map this morning. I learned that a friend of mine transitioned overnight. So it throws me a little bit off balance. I went and saw my mom for a couple of days, and it was great to unplug. And I come back, and the news is still happening, and life is still happening, and it's okay. You know, it's the season that we are in the midst of. I think it's important to be right up front and remind anyone that's listening that in this village, Black Lives Matter. And my heart is in Atlanta this morning. We got some troubles going on in Atlanta, and ultimately all of this is working itself out, but it's hard in the meantime, and I recognize that, and I'm keeping all of us in prayer. Let's see, what else was I going to mention? Kev Choice, your project, I've noticed in the last week or so, Black Music Matters. I'm liking that at all. So if that strikes your interest, if you're curious about what Kev is up to, take a look at his website or his Facebook page. He's really got some good stuff underway to accompany us through this time. Let's see. I would like to share with you something that I've been referencing this week a fair amount. One of my teachers, who I have a lot of respect for, her name is Clarissa Pincola Estes. I know I've shared her with you before, but she wrote a piece that I've been reviewing this week, and I want to share some of it with you. So we'll start with that, my friends. She says, "Do not lose heart. We were made for times like these." I've heard from so many who are deeply and properly bewildered. They're concerned about the state of affairs in our world right now. Ours is a time of almost daily astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most to a civilized, visionary people. You're right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is, we are made for these times. Yes, for years, we have been learning, practicing, been in training for and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. In any dark time, there's a tendency to veer towards fainting over how much is wrong and unmended in our world. Do not focus on that, she writes. There is a tendency too to fall into being weakened by dwelling on what's outside of your reach, by what cannot yet be. Do not focus there. That's spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That's all that we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great sails, great souls who will hail us, love us, guide us, accompany us. And we'll know them when they appear. Didn't you say you were a believer? Didn't you say you pledged to listen to a greater voice? Didn't you ask for grace? Don't you remember that to be in grace means to submit to that greater voice? Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of our world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this world, will help immensely. It's not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip towards an enduring good. And so I'm noticing myself, especially in this last week, something in me is desirous of searching out the good and finding it. And I will tell you that while we're away, as an example, while we're away, lots is happening at our center. Paul and Christopher and Trisha and the amazing facilities crew, along with our custodian Javier and Lucian, our youth and family coordinator, and Dorothy Mendez and Margot and Diane and lots of others, are very busy affecting that corner of the world that we can affect, that we can influence. And there is an enormous amount of cleaning and sanitizing and organizing and painting and polishing and planting and weeding, and things are going to be all kinds of clean and fresh and new when we come together again to do our work. And our technology that has been serving us so well for the last handful of months, we're upgrading our live stream equipment and expanding our ability to broadcast electronically. So you'll be seeing a lot more of that in the weeks and months to come. So the work that we do, we'll be able to share more broadly. And so that's, it's exciting. There's so much good that's underway. Maybe that's the realization of this last week. There is so much good that's underway right smack in the middle of what can sometimes look and feel like just flat out chaos. With each passing day now, I'm sensing more and more that we are turning a corner and beginning to emerge into a new season, as Luqman was singing about. There comes a time, and it's one of those seasons that none of us have ever experienced before, and honestly, I think that as much of our anxiety as anything is not knowing. It's fear of the unknown. We're co-creating something brand new, which is both thrilling and terrifying at the same time. Sometimes I think about a colleague, and I found myself thinking of him this last week, a friend and neighbor of ours, the Reverend Dr. David Bruner, down the road at the Center for Spiritual Living in San Jose. Reverend David is always saying, something wonderful is happening right now. It's one of his go-to lines. No matter what's going on in the world or in his life, you can count on Dr. David to name it and claim it. Something wonderful is happening right now. It's the knowing that's unconditional beneath circumstance and situation. He tells the story that I'll never forget. He and his partner Mauricio liked to go water skiing, and he tells the story of tossing a set of car keys from the boat to someone standing on the dock, and the keys naturally falling short, plump into the lake. And that sinking feeling that happens in the pit of your stomach, sinking feeling, get it, little pun. And he tells the story of standing on the dock and taking a breath and hearing the keys sinking into the lake and thinking to himself, something wonderful is happening right now. It's similar to some of the feelings that I've experienced in the last few weeks and few months. I see or feel something that just kind of makes me sick at my stomach a little bit. And yet at the very same time, I am absolutely absolutely taking a page from Dr. Bruner's book and knowing, there's a knowing that something wonderful is happening right now. Slow and steady like spring, irrepressible. It's coming on. It's coming on. And it's good. We had a rather amazing conversation as a community this last Wednesday night, just a coming together, witnessing each other, comforting each other, loving each other as we individually and collectively walk through this season, process it together. Honestly, I'm learning every bit as much as I'm teaching during this time, and lots of us seem to be having some version of that experience, and I think that's a very good thing as we reconsider all that we've been told again and dismiss what insults our soul. Wednesday evening, we were looking at hidden bias, which is another way of saying hidden belief, a biased belief. We talk about that here a lot, and in our philosophy, we have learned that we can reconsider what we've been told, and we can dismiss and release old beliefs that no longer serve us. We can see ourselves with new eyes, and many of us are during this time, and that too, a very, very good thing. There are a few things like watching a man being killed to get one's attention, to make us think again. Wednesday evening, we talked about metaphysics, Metaphysics 101, our beliefs, hidden and otherwise, informing our worldview. As metaphysicians, we study ourselves, we study our beliefs, and we choose them more and more mindfully and intentionally as we go along, as opposed to mindlessly and unconsciously navigating our way through our world. We do so in order to influence our experience of life. Metaphysics 101. And as we change our thinking, our worldview changes, and the way we show up in the world changes. The influence that we all have, the way that we influence our world changes. It gets applied in a more mindful, intentional, awake way. We do our own work. And I think that's a huge part of this equation that we're currently engaged in, just a willingness. Yes, I'm willing to do my work. Some of it's, a lot of it is big work. We're up to it. We were made for these times. I'll give you an example, and I used this Wednesday night, and I will tell you again because I'm aware that we have a larger audience here on Sunday morning and some people that perhaps weren't there Wednesday night. I'm not proud of the story, but I realized that another piece of this equation is that the ego gets to learn to step aside now and then. Humility can serve us if we're willing to go there, because we can't know what we don't know. Gentle hearts. We can't know what we don't know until we know it. And when we do become aware, then we also become responsible. I saw something by Maya Angelou this last week. She said, you do your best until you know better. And when you know better, you do better. Thank God for a little patience with ourselves, with each other. So I had just started working. I was in my first season, my first year, working at our Oakland Center, and I was working on a bulletin, I think, and had thought to myself and then expressed it, something about our Paul's workday. And I said something, I wrote something about Paul cracking the whip with his team. And I didn't know what I was saying until I knew. And when I did realize what I was saying, I was mortified. A person who chose to love me through that experience took me inside and said, "Hey, Rev, just so you know, um, that kind of talk has a different place in the minds and the hearts of people of color." And I was mortified. And then he said to me, "Do you know where the term cracker comes from?" And I could have dissolved into a puddle of nothing at that point. I was so horrified to discover something within my own mind that I didn't realize the import of. I didn't realize the power of, the influence of something harmful, intentional or not, in my mind. I felt like a fool. Here I was in a position of responsibility. I should know better, right? And yet, the choice, the decision then, once we learn what we don't know, then we get to be more mindful. We get to take responsibility for it. We get to make different choices. And we get to show up in our worlds in a different way. Where are these thoughts and beliefs in our minds and in our hearts? Because if they're in there, they're affecting how I show up in the world. They're affecting and influencing how I conduct myself, consciously or unconsciously. If I have beliefs at play in my mind and my heart that are hurtful to a group of people who I love, then those hurtful beliefs aren't contributing what I want to contribute to my world. They're not contributing to my life or the lives of the people I love on the micro level, and they're not contributing to the human experience, to the betterment of the human experience on the macro level. Change my thinking, change my life, change my world, simply by changing my mind. I've been thinking this last week too about the masks. I've been watching a mask conversation and controversy. This relatively insignificant piece of cloth that has caused so much controversy. You do know that the reason that we're being asked to wear masks is not to keep us well so much. The mask will not completely protect me from the virus nearly as much as you wearing your mask protects me. Me wearing my mask protects you. Bless our heart. I wear it for you, you wear it for me. We need each other. We literally depend on each other for our wellness. And so I want to thank you personally for sucking it up and taking one for the team every time you put on that mask before you walk out the door. It benefits me and I'm grateful. You wearing a mask just might save my life. Literally, personally. My life. So what do we do then with ourselves? I guess the realization is that what we do for each other. The work that is underway, this rebalancing, this restoration of wellness in the human organism, we do in exactly the same way that we do our masks. While it might just save my life, concurrently as we do our individual work, the whole organism gets healthier. The whole human organism gets healthier because we are interconnected. I read a piece this last week. I'm rather enamored with indigenous teachings. I think indigenous peoples have got a lot going on. There's a gentleman named Floyd Red Crow Westerman. He's a Hopi elder. And I'll share with you what I ran across of his this last week. He says, in a sense, America is dying from within because they forgot the instructions of how to live on the earth. It's the Hopi belief that if you're not spiritually connected to the earth and understand the spiritual reality of how to live on earth, it's likely that you won't make it. Everything is spiritual. Everything has a spirit. Everything was brought here by the creator, the one creator. Some people call him God. Some people call it Buddha. Some people call it Allah. Some people call it other names. We call him Tankashia, grandfather. In order to stay healthy, he writes, you've got to drink good water. Water is sacred. Air is sacred. Our DNA is made of the same DNA as the tree. The tree breathes what we exhale. We need what the tree exhales. We have a common destiny with the trees and with each other. We are all from the earth. He says, and when earth and water and atmosphere is corrupted, then it will create its own reaction. The mother is reacting. In the Hopi prophecy, they say the storms and floods will become greater. To me, it's not a negative thing to know that there will be great changes. It's not a negative, it's evolution, he writes. When you look at it as evolution, it's time. Nothing stays the same. He closes with this. He says, you should learn how to plant something. That's the first connection. You should treat all things as spirit. Realize that we are one family. It's never something like the end. It's like life. There is no end to life. Right. The mother is reacting, and the children are a choice. The mother is reacting, and the children are a choice. This past week, something wonderful happened. Something wonderful is happening right now, and I am bound and determined to look for it, to find it, to raise it, and to praise it. This last week specifically, our advanced consciousness studies class students are preparing for their final oral panels to become licensed as prayer practitioners in our community. I think we have 6 students who are paneling in just a few weeks. Our first new practitioners in quite a few years now. It's very exciting time. And they did a great job with their practice panels this last week. We're trying to equip them as best as possible, and the education team is doing just an amazing job. Their mentors and Robin and teachers and Constance keeping an eye on all things. These students are well prepared to step into things. And this last week, I sent to them this piece by Dr. Estes, by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, because it's meaningful to me, and I think it's important that we remind ourselves that even while we're walking through a time, an unprecedented time in our history, that something, in fact, wonderful is happening right now. And so I'm going to close with another little piece of her writing, and then we'll go into prayer. I have posted this entire writing on our Facebook page, so you can find it there. If you can't find it there, send Constance an email. We'll make sure that you get a copy of it. Dr. Estes writes this: what is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it doesn't take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th scale. There will always be times when you feel discouraged. I too have felt despair many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. I will not allow it to eat from my plate. Isn't that the best? There will always be times when you feel discouraged. I too have felt despair many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. It is not allowed to eat from my plate. The reason is this: in my uttermost bones, I know something as you do. It is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good deeds we do are not ours. They're words and deeds of the one who brought us here. In that spirit, I hope you will write this on your wall. When a great ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe, there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are for. Something wonderful is happening right now. It's big, it's hard, it's messy, it's heartbreaking, and yet something wonderful is happening right now. I will share with you the one other thought that has been accompanying me this week, and that comes from our founder, Dr. Holmes. And the thought is this: when the time comes that nothing goes forth from you other than that which you would be glad to have in return, then you will have reached your heaven. And so that's my prayer for myself and for anyone who chooses it as your own this week. That which goes forth from me is nothing but good. I'm a place where the good of God shows up in the world. That's my choice, my intention, my design, and my desire this week. I'll hold that for all of us, because God knows this planet could use all the good that we can bring. Blessed be. Let us pray. I invite you to take a breath. I breathe to remind myself that that breath meets my lips and meets my nose and meets my being. It pours itself into body as the presence of spirit pours itself into mind and heart and soul, withholding nothing from itself, all possibility, infinite possibility, meeting me with every breath. I know that's the truth of who and what I am. I know it's the truth of each of us here today, each of us in the sound of my voice. And it's from that place that I speak this word of prayer this morning. Hang on, I'm bringing up my prayer requests. Where are they? And we breathe. I speak a word of gratitude and a blessing, grateful to be in such good company, grateful for the technology, grateful that we have the resources to come together like this, to consider what's ours, to consider, to do our work, to remind ourselves what's important, to hold up the mirror for ourselves and for each other, reminding that this is our truth, the truth of who and what we are. God is good, God is love. Something, in fact, wonderful is underway right now. I'm a place where that shows up. You're a place where that shows up. We are a place. Our village is a place where that shows up. I speak a word for for all who are contributing to a life and to a world that works for everyone, the children, the stewards for our planet who continues to support us, and for our increasingly mindful stewardship of her. I speak a word for all those who are walking through a time of challenge today. I speak a word for all of the communities that are walking through times of challenge. I speak a word for every individual, that they are touched and accompanied, that they know the presence of God and the peace that passes understanding in their minds and hearts and in their souls. I speak a word for this transformation, this global transformation, this global awakening that is underway, that truly does set the stage for us to come together as brothers and sisters, regardless of where we come from, what we've been, who we've been. Something wonderful is happening right now. I speak a word for our Jerry Carter and her brother George as they head into an adventure of their own this next week. As Jerry gives a kidney to her brother, something wonderful is happening right now. I look for it, I trust it, I raise it and praise it. I know that life knows how to do life. I'm trusting that the restoration, the reconciliation, the rebalancing that is currently underway continues and finds its way in its own perfect way. My part, find the good, to contribute as much good as I can conceivably contribute on any given day, leaving every day better than I found it simply because I exist. That's the invitation for each of us, to leave every day better than we found it simply because we exist. I'm so grateful for all of this, knowing that the universe fills in between, fills in all the blanks that it knows not only my word, but my feelings, my emotions, my heart, and my soul. I know that I'm met there and that God is good. God is good all the time. Something wonderful is going on, and I give thanks for that, knowing I trust it, I surrender to it, I celebrate it. I release it, this word, into a law that says, yes, beloved, it is so. And we affirm it together by saying, and so it is.